The Jesse Blake Sports Report with Jesse Blake.
For the 2 weeks that we had to analyze this game, Eagles versus Chiefs, I don't think I heard a single person say, oh yeah, no, the Eagles are going to blow out the Chiefs. The Chiefs aren't going to show up. It's going to be just a bloodbath. They're just going to win, and it's going to be by like 20 plus points. You know, it's not even going to be close. And that's what we got tonight. The final score is 40-22. Mahomes had that last giant bomb to Worthy to make it look a little better than it actually was. But if you watch that game, if you had to sit through that painful ordeal of a football game, if you are a neutral fan, if you're a Chiefs fan, if you're an Eagles fan, what a great celebration. But if you're just impartial watching that football game, oof. What a beatdown. And as I said, I don't think anybody expected that, because on one side of the ball, you have one of the greatest QBs we have going to go down in history as one of the best in Patrick Mahomes. And you don't really believe that a player of that quality can get blown out like this in such an important game when they got to this point, because they didn't get there because they're a bad team, but that's where we land now. And there's a stat from Next Gen Stats that I'm going to read to you, and I think this might summarize the entire game, because I don't know how you look at the game from any other angle than this. Next Gen Stats tweeted out, the Eagles did not blitz once across 42 dropbacks in Super Bowl LIX. Just the fourth defense to not blitz in a game in the Next Gen Stats era. Relying on their front four, the Eagles generated 16 pressures and sacked Mahomes 6 times, his most in a game in his career. The Eagles played zone coverage on all but 2 dropbacks, specifically cover 4. The third highest rate by a defense in a game since 2018. That's 59.5% of their coverage was in cover 4. Vic Fangio's defense held Mahomes to his second worst performance by EPA in a game in his career. That's minus 19.3 EPA. That sums up the entire game on the Eagles side of the ball, and a little mostly on the Chiefs side of the ball, because we also need to talk about how the Chiefs defense didn't show up. But in terms of their offense, that's it. You know, I don't know what happened to the Chiefs offensive line. I don't know where they went, but the Eagles all night got to Mahomes at quarterback, and they kept rushing, and it was like they were sending a blitz on every single play. And the offensive line of the Chiefs, they weren't like this all season. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought they were better than this. And just time after time, it seemed like every single play Mahomes was scrambling and under pressure, and they were hitting them. And like the stat said there, most sacks ever in his career, 16 pressures. That's insane what they were able to do, and all credit to the Eagles defense. And now that we have hindsight of this game, you're like, okay, the result that should have happened on paper happened here. Like, all the smart people were like, if you look at these teams objectively and you take away who Mahomes is and who the Chiefs have been over the last 2 seasons, where you put them in a vacuum for this season, the line should probably favor the Eagles in some respect. It should be minus 2.5 for the Eagles, I think, is where the sharps had it if you just look at these teams in a vacuum, because the Eagles have the best defense in the league. They led the league in yards against. You know, nobody had more or less yards on them than any other team in the league. They're first. And then on the offense, they have a quarterback who can handle anything. Hurts can handle any situation. He's great at scrambling. He doesn't have the best arm in the world. We saw him today even throw some wobbly passes, but that's okay, because he can get by, because he has one of the best, if not the best, wide receiver group in the league with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. And then you also throw in Goddard there at tight end, who's very handy. And then you have the best running back currently in the league, if maybe you count Derrick Henry, but it's probably Saquon right now, and you throw him in the backfield. And then you have the offensive line, which is easily the best offensive line in the league. And that combination with that on the offensive end with the great defense, on paper, this team did exactly what they needed to do and what they were capable of tonight, leading to that 40-22 victory. So that kind of sums up the game for the Chiefs. There's not a lot to talk about in a blowout, because you can get into the minutia, but it doesn't really make a whole lot of difference when the end result is this big win. So let's get into some of the other aspects of this game. The way it started is something I noted here that I wanted to talk about. The pass interference on A.J. Brown that took back a giant Eagles reception. Didn't end up mattering, but it was very funny that we start the Super Bowl with the Chiefs and refs conversation once again, how that narrative took off over the last couple of weeks and this entire playoff run. And that's how we start the Super Bowl. Hilarity. And then we get a personal foul on the Chiefs on the next drive going the other way. So it all balanced out in the end. But for those minutes there where all we had was a offensive pass interference on A.J. Brown, it was hilarious to see the way the internet melted down about the Chiefs and ref situation. So that was awesome. And then we had a couple other little notes, like the new score bug that Fox decided to put on the screen for the Super Bowl. I don't understand why broadcasters love doing this. They loved debuting their giant brand new graphics package at the biggest moment of the season on the one game that they have that's on the biggest stage. They love debuting the new graphics packages there. And that never made sense to me. Do it at the beginning of the season, and then you can find your way to tweak it throughout the 17-game schedule, and then you figure it out there. Like, do that instead of debuting your big thing on Super Bowl, and then everybody's like, this is ugly. Why are we looking at this stupid score bug? And then you're stuck with that score bug because that's what you decided to go with for the Super Bowl. I thought it was really weird. They went with the modern, simple look, and it's sleek, and there's nothing around it, and it was just these square numbers on the screen, and I'm like, ugh. So that was a big blunder on Fox's part, but not as big of a blunder as the Chiefs' accomplishments today against the Eagles. And all the Patrick Mahomes GOAT debate against Tom Brady, all that stuff is going to have to wait for the next time Patrick Mahomes gets back to the Super Bowl. We talked about it previously, about how Patrick Mahomes was going for his fourth Super Bowl, third in a row, but fourth overall, and he's only 29 years old, and Brady didn't win his fourth Super Bowl until his late 30s. So there's plenty of time for Mahomes to climb back to more Super Bowls and catch Brady for the 7 overall. I don't know if he's going to do that, but at least get to 4 possibly sometime soon, which will still be way ahead of the Brady timeline of his 7. So we'll see how that goes. But all of that stuff now, it's just got to wait. We got to wait and see. And the offensive line's got to be the entire focus of the Chiefs offseason, I guess, if this non-blitzing team was able to get to Mahomes. I'm surprised there wasn't more of an adjustment on the Chiefs' end to the pressure they were facing. Like, all game, they weren't able to adjust to that, and that's really strange. Anyways, I think I've said my piece on this game. Thank you for being here. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you chose to be watching or listening. I appreciate you for that. If you did not check out our pregame stream, you can go watch or listen to that. That audio is up on the Jesse Blake Sports Report podcast feed, or you can replay the live watch on the YouTube channel. Hit subscribe if you're not subscribed. Hit like if you have not liked the video yet. Good night from Toronto.
That is how it's done.
The Jesse Blake Sports Report with Jesse Blake.
Jesse Blake, the guy that likes to hear his name twice in one sentence. Sure, I know him. No, he doesn't have an ego at all.